Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nodge Spotlight, our weekly pointers video. Last week, it was a bit of a news one between myself, Freddie Humphrey Wakefield, and Will Grant, who, as you can see, I am joined by once again this week. But we're going to be doing a bit of a different one this time around. It's not going to be news and updates during the week. This time round, it's going to be more of a ranking the attackers at Norwich City. We're going to be doing a bit of a keep, loan, sell sort of vibe, or even so keep, loan, sell. Maybe even bench them as well if we're feeling a bit extra polite towards the players. But anyway, just before we start, Will, how have you been? Of course, podcast at the weekend. It's been a few days. Norwich are playing Hoffenheim in a pre-season friendly on the day of recording this. Season getting closer, but another big test for the players and, well, the attackers that we're pretty much going to be delving into. They've got to make a name for themselves now.
Yeah, mate, I'm superb. Mate, the weather in Wroxham is absolutely divine. So I'm loving life here in the fine city. Actually, I just also want to say thank you guys for the support actually on the first episode of this. I thought it was absolutely superb. So thank you so much. And yes, I'm very, very excited to get into some a bit more detailed analysis of all the attackers at Norwich right now. It feels like although pre-season has looked bright in some places, there's still some room for improvement.
No, 100%. And we've got a list of 10 names here, a lot of first teamers, a few academy lads as well that could potentially break in. But first and foremost, well, we'll get straight into those names. So Ashley Barnes is the first name. Of course, currently out injured, just had surgery, still on crutches, albeit in the TikToks of Onel Hernandez, which are actually proven quite good as of late, because it actually showed Adam Eder was in Austria when everyone was scared that he wasn't. So, that's why we're paying the wages. But they're two players we'll get onto later. But to start off, Ashley Barnes, a player who came in last season on a free, scored a handful of goals, actually turned out to be quite useful in the role he played under David Wagner, just in behind the striker of Josh Sargent. And they hit off a very nice relationship between one another. But Barnes, usually when he's a lone striker, he's not as useful, you could say, but he's a very good player to have probably in a dressing room. And obviously he's known for winding up opposition. But for me with Ashley Barnes, I think, well, we're doing a keep, sell, loan, but we'll include sub as well, because we might as well, because if you don't want to sell them but you don't start them, where else are they going to go? It's harsh to say you're going to sell a play if you don't really feel like that's your true opinion on it. So for me, yeah, I'd be putting Barnes on the bench for me personally, because of the setup of Thorup seems to be a 4-3-3, where of course there's only going to be one natural striker, and I don't think Barnes is going to be as useful in that role. So for me, I wouldn't sell him, because I do think he can be quite integral to the squad, but I'd have him on my bench personally. What would you do with him, Will?
I'll do absolutely the same, mate. I'm a bit worried about Ashley Barnes in a more technically suited system. I think he could have some effect in the pocket and half spaces, but I question whether he's got the ability to actually turn away from his men, because I think with Ashley Barnes he's so good at holding up the ball and he can win fouls, but I question if he can spin them the other way at his age, as he isn't the most quickest anymore. But I think I definitely look to put him on a bench. I think he could add some influence, especially if we're trying to try and keep a lead in the game. I think he's got a lot of good characteristics to try and defend, and has got quite a good winning mindset as well. But I was actually looking at Barnes' stats before we recorded, actually, and he contributed with 11 goal contributors last season in the Championship. So it's not a bad return, actually, for a striker who isn't the most renowned in front of goal. But I think to notice about Ashley Barnes is as well, actually, is he's got quite a high win percentage with him actually in the team as well. So I wonder if that's going to have any influence this season, but I definitely think towards the start of the season, we'll look to try and build without him in a starting 11.
Yeah, you would certainly think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a pro. No, he's a very good I say utility player. He's a good backup to have. There's no question about that. He's had a very good career. He's played in the Premier League, played in Europe, honed his craft in the lower leagues, and has scored over 100 league goals, which of course is fantastic. He has over 500 league appearances. So again, a player who very well renowned within English football. There's no doubt about that. Albeit he's at the tail end of his career now, but I'm more than happy for him to, just to be a player who you bring on with 10 minutes to go to try and ruffle up the opposition feathers and just be a bit of a nuisance, really. But so Ashley Barnes, you'll be on the bench for us, and you might get a bit of a run out. Yeah, sorry, Ashley, but you'll get a run out definitely. We won't just keep you on there for the full 90. But next up, it's a youth player who's sort of come up into the first team over the last few seasons. Has only scored one goal in his senior career, and that was on loan last season at Northampton. It's Tony Springett. Now, for me, well, he's got pedigree, there's no doubt. He's been at Norwich's academy and has got quite a few games for him and has had League One loans at Derby and Northampton, albeit only scored one goal. But an Ireland youth international as well, who has had a few decent performances for his country. But for me, I wouldn't keep Tony Springett. I wouldn't even loan him personally. I don't think he's got much of a future at this football club. And as harsh as that is to say, I just can't see as to how he is ever going to start. I can't really see that he'll be coming on as a substitute, because even the other attacking options we'll get onto who are going to be on the bench are better than him, at least in my opinion. But I would sell Tony Springett. I don't know where that would be to. I don't know if that would just be a lower League One or maybe a League Two side, although that seems a bit very harsh, seeing he's played in League One already on loan. But for me, I wouldn't keep him. I'd sell Tony Springett for any bit of money you can get. But what about you, Will? Do you think Springett's got a future here, or should he be kicked out the door?
Yeah, with Tony, I think he's got some really effective attributes which should kind of lend in nicely at a EFL club, low down the pyramids. I think he's got some raw pace, and his confidence is evidently there. He was so well liked by Weaver, etc. At the academy level, he's got some really, really good traits if they are used correctly. But it just hasn't worked out for him at Norwich, I don't think, in terms of first team as of yet. I think he's been around the scene now probably since the Premier League season in 2021-22 season, sorry. So he has been here quite a while. Obviously, he went to Derby and Northampton, and he didn't get too much game time, but he was always praised for his great work rate, etc., etc. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be a resource for Norwich this season. So I'll look to maybe try and loan him out just to get some more experience for him, and hopefully he can go on to have a really good career in the game. But from Springett, we go to the other side of the spectrum and we go to a more experienced winger in Eno Hernandez. And Freddie, it feels like a while ago since we saw a really, really good Eno Hernandez performance in Norwich colours. I'd actually probably say the Watford game at home, I thought it was actually really good against Jamal Lewis, in fact. But I think for quite a unproductive performance in terms of goals and assists, I would probably have to go back to Millwall away in the 22-23 season to kind of think of a very, very good Eno Hernandez performance. So what's your kind of thoughts on around him at the minute?
Well, I would personally keep him. I'd use him as an impact sub, because that is by far the best way to use Eno Hernandez currently at this sort of stage in his career. He's been at Norwich a long, long time. He's been here for 6 years and he's been a great servant. There's no question. Of course, he loves the club and the fans do love him, albeit that relationship maybe has deteriorated just a tiny bit because his end product has dried up. There's no doubt. He's not scored a goal for Norwich in over a year. He's not scored a goal at Carrow Road for even longer than that, which is really, really concerning. But as an impact sub, I don't think there's a better player at the club to use. Like his raw pace, he gets you excited as well whenever he tries to go past the fullback. I don't even think Onel himself knows what he's going to do next when he's up against the fullback and he starts doing step overs. But just he's a perfect impact sub to bring on against tired legs, and he can be of use. I know that he, as you say there, I have to agree with you, as sort of harsh as it is again, that it has been a long time since we've seen an Onel Hernandez performance which has made you think, brilliant, that is why he's still here. This is the player that we signed, and that it's been like that for 6 years. Of course, in the Daniel Farke Championship season, the first time around was absolutely exhilarating to watch. He is a good player. He is a good player, or sort of he still has the capabilities to be a good one. But for me, under Thorup, he's not going to start. But as a sub to bring on against tired legs, 15 minutes to go, that is perfect for him. And I think he'll be more than happy to play that role.
Yeah, I think with O'Neill, I'd probably see it as a similar case to Ashley Barnes, where I probably look to keep him on the bench, but maybe even as a last resort. I think his attacking output when he has come off the bench in recent years has been a bit poor, really. But I do think he's going to add some importance to the team if we're trying to hold the lead and we're trying to gain some territory in opposition half. And I think his pace could allow us to do so. But I wouldn't be relying on him actually to try and claw us a goal out of nowhere, because I'm not too sure if he can do it. But look, he's got some great resources, and he's got a tattoo as well. So I guess that's a small tick in the box. But yeah, I worry about O'Neill's future at Norwich beyond this season. I'm just not convinced that it'll be renewed, unfortunately. But he's had some brilliant moments for Norwich over the time. I think that Forest game on Boxing Day was just spectacular, really, what he actually produced. So it was superb. But yeah, hopefully we get to see more better Hernandez performances. Sorry, but I think we're going to go definitely now to one player who is very, very important to Norwich, and that is Jonathan Rowe. Wow, I think he got almost over 50 goal contributions last season. He's got everything in the modern game to be a real success. He could be a threat on the inside, on the outside. I mean, his goal against Hull, both games against Hull was superb, and I think it just goes to show his raw potential. And I'm surprised he hasn't had too much interest this summer. And it feels like, although he's got so much pedigree and talent, I think as the window keeps going on and on and on, I question whether we're going to get a good fee for him, because obviously Norwich just sell one player this summer to try and keep afloat and keep the books balanced, if you will. So I wonder what actually is going to be in store for Jonathan Rowe. I think we'll want towards like £20 million for him, but I could quite easily see as a window just keeps going on and on and on. Maybe we'll be lucky to get, I don't know, like £12 million plus a few add-ons, because the window is so slow right now, and it's just going to be absolutely chaos come deadline day, I feel. So, but in terms of Johnny on the pitch, he is just a level above any other winger we have, I think. Especially when he's on it. I would probably say towards the latter end of last season, towards the playoff campaign, I think he dropped off a little bit. He didn't look as sharp, but then again, I don't think Sargent looked sharp either, and neither did Barnes anyway. So look, I think that's quite a hard thing to kind of stick him with, but I think he's definitely a player who has given us so much good moments, and if he's still at the club, then we've got to use him all season because he is that good. Obviously, that might hinder one player in particular, which we'll touch on later. But yeah, Jonathan Rowe is a special talent, and if we got him for another season, then I think that's going to be great for us, and maybe great for him as well. What do you think?
No, I can't add anything else. I genuinely can't. You've said it all. But there's no question. Jonathan Rowe is the best winger at this club, arguably the best attacker at the club, albeit apart from one man who we'll go on to shortly. But this is a kid who is sensational. He's come into his first ever season of senior football, and he's absolutely smashed it. He has just kicked the door down to the first team, and he's gone in there and been excellent. Yes, since he came back from injury, the performance levels dipped. There's no doubt about that. Maybe he was rushed back a bit too quickly, but then again, when he's one of your standout players, you almost have to rush them back because you're desperate to have them in the team to make impacts. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I can't add much else. If Jonathan Rowe does stay, he's got to play every single game that he can, because that's just how good he is. If he's sold, yes, it would hurt, but if you get a good fee for him, then that's nice, and we can probably end up getting a half decent replacement. I'd like to think, with the recruitment that we've sometimes shown, and Ben Napper will hopefully make that a little bit better and have a few more hits than misses. But I do think, yeah, if Jonathan Rowe is to stay, then you have to play him in every single game. Like, it's ridiculous for you not to. But from one very good attacker to, as I just said, probably the best forward the club has got, it's Josh Sargent, the American R9, as a few fans like to call him. But again, you have to start. It's the same points as Rowe, pretty much, that this is our best player, arguably. Sargent is head and shoulders above any other attacker we've got. Albeit his first season at the club was was poor. There's no hiding that. But the 2 championship seasons he played, excellent, absolutely excellent. If he played a full season last season, Norwich would have had playoffs most likely wrapped up a little bit earlier than what they did, and wouldn't have to worry about a final day result getting them in there. But he's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. If he does go, it would hurt. It would definitely hurt, because it would be very hard to replace him and get that sort of 20 goal a season striker straight in. But I think, yeah, you can't, as a fan, you can't not say you would keep him, because he's just that important. And that seems crazy to say that, well, sort of this time, sort of 2 and a bit years ago, no one wanted him to play because he wasn't scoring goals. He looked, he was being played out of position. He looked weak, really. He was a bit scrawny, and he came to the Premier League, and by no means did he hit the ground running whatsoever. It was a poor year for him, but he came back with a bigger frame. He obviously knew he was going to be playing in a more physical league, and my word, has he taken it by storm.
Yeah, he had an amazing goal scoring spree, wasn't it? Towards after Christmas, I think it was, and he was superb. He looked to be in the form of his life during that time. I think as the season kind of went on and his ankle started to deteriorate a little bit more due to the demand of the season, I think his performances slipped off slightly, and his technical quality was a bit inconsistent at times. Like his first touch and hold up play was a bit scruffy, but you can't moan at Sargent too much, because he was the main driving force why we got so close to promotion ultimately, really, getting in the playoffs. So yeah, I think with Sargent, I think, as I said actually in the first podcast we ever done, or second, if it was between Sarah, Sargent and Rowe, I think he'd be the one player who I'd be okay with going, because I know he holds so much importance to our team, because I actually think in the game against Magdeburg summed it up brilliantly. There was some nice intricate play at times in our own defensive third and middle third, but there was no striker there to kind of like knit it all together. And there was a big hole there. But I think I'm not too sure if I can trust Sargent to play over 20 games this season. His ankle looks a real problem. And I think that's probably why he hasn't had more rumours around him as well. Look, I hope it can all be brushed aside and we get a fully fit Josh Sargent. But right now, it just feels unlikely. There's so much uncertainties around him. I mean, he hasn't even played one preseason friendly yet. And I know preseason friendlies, I mean, firstly, you want to try and get fitness. But then again, would he try and get towards the latter starts of preseason? You want to try and start scoring a few goals to try and feel in a really good rhythm and mindset heading into the new season. So, yeah, I think Sargent is slightly behind the pecking order in terms of when he starts at Oxford. I actually reckon right now it's probably really be Alameda, his counterpart, who'll probably start just because he's played more minutes, probably. And I think actually in large part as well, we'll touch on that later, but I think Ida has looked pretty sharp as well. But back to Sargent, yeah, great striker, and definitely a striker who Norwich did very well recruited now. Obviously, during the Premier League season, it was a bit of a weird one because he was obviously recruited as some sort of right winger. He could play striker. So now we're seeing the Philly fit Sargent flourishing. I'm just slightly worried whether he'll play much games this season. And if a chance comes for us to get 15 to 20 million pounds, I think I would take it and trust Ben Epper to get it right to find a adequate replacement. But look, time will tell. But a great forward for the club when he's fit, and hopefully that's going to be the case across next season. So I've touched on Alameda just now, actually, Freddie. Look, I think he's definitely a player who's had a really, really good low spell at Celtic, and he's had a good pre-season. Do you think he's favourite to start against Oxford?
Oh, definitely. At this rate, has to be. As you said, he's the only sort of natural striker who has played pre-season minutes, and albeit he hasn't scored in any of the games that he did play, and he had a slight knock. That's why he didn't play against Magdeburg, but he is in Austria right now. He might play against Hoffenheim tonight, although I know Sargent is also out in Austria, so maybe they'll use both of them and they'll sort of limit their minutes, and we'll have to wait and see as to how they play later on today. But Alameda is probably my favourite to start. I think it would make sense, and I think after all the talk from Thorup about how he thinks Ida can have a big season, and there's no question, we say this pretty much every video we do. Alameda, this is his time. This is 100% his time, and if he can't take it now in a yellow and green shirt where he has to, because this is where he, not only to prove to his new manager that he is going to be the starting striker, if he wants to impress any teams who want to sign him, he's got to play well as well. He has to put it in on the pitch and not just do what some players might do and just half-arse it to just sort of walk around the pitch and just do nothing really because they think, oh, well, I'm moving away. The club want me. I don't need to play well. I'll just play well when I get there. No, you need to be professional in how you go around things. And he needs to put in big performances to prove to everyone that he deserves to either start or go elsewhere and kick on there. So I think he's probably the favourite to start. What would I do with him in the actual team? Sargent has a better goal record and is a better player. So I'd sub him for now, but I'm more than happy for him to prove me wrong and prove a lot of other people wrong and ultimately prove why he should be the starting striker. And finally, after waiting a long, long time, he's been at Norwich for pretty much his whole life. So this is time for him to prove why he should be the main man.
Yeah, I actually think as well, I think he has showcased his desire to want to be here at times as well. I think he's actually looked quite good in pre-season, as I said earlier. I think technically so far he's been really good as well. I think the game against Bruges, he came out, no, I think he started against Bruges and even the game against Liège as well. His technical quality was really sound, actually. I thought his final ball at times to signs was really good. Maybe that might have been something that he's worked with Brendan Rodgers at Celtic. But I definitely think he looks quite sharp. Whether his rhythm might have got disturbed slightly because he didn't play on Saturday. No, Friday night, sorry. That will tell tonight, hopefully. But hopefully that isn't the case. But yeah, I think Eder's probably the best to start because I think he's got more actual minutes in his tank and he's probably the most sharpest as well. How Sargent will take that, I don't know, but he might understand it, to be fair, because Eder has looked pretty good. But yeah, I feel like we're going to be talking about Adam Eder probably till like deadline day, so I won't keep going on about him, just for our viewers' sake at this stage. But I think the biggest question mark, which we actually kind of touched in it last podcast, actually, is Abu Kamara, and there's so many factors around him at the minute, which is quite hard to comprehend. Really, I think some of his criticism has been slightly unfair, but I definitely do understand it. I think it's quite harsh to judge him as a striker because that isn't his role. Obviously, I think his contract actually finishes come next season as well. So it's a massive season for Abu. He's got great potential. Obviously, he showcased that at Portsmouth, a player that was widely respected as well and liked by Massinio, who looks like a very, very good manager coming through the English ranking pyramid. So that is very good to see. I think the biggest difference between Abu Kamara and Jonathan Rose, and that is what I've seen, is that Abu is probably more orientated to cutting in on his from the left hand, from the right hand side, to try and force a shot or an assist, and try to play through the lines in that regard. But I haven't really seen too much of Abu Kamara recently, or the clips that I watched the Portsmouth of him actually running at defenders one-on-one on the outsides. He seems like a very much focused player, wanted to try and create opportunities on the left-hand side, cutting in, but I question whether he's got as both, just like Jonathan Rowe does have. So that remains to be seen. Look, if Jonathan Rowe stays at Norwich, then I do worry about our hopes of keeping Abid, because I think he's got agents who are like very busy to try and get him a good career in the game. I mean, he's been linked with Brentford and Portsmouth over the recent 12 months as well, quite strongly actually. So that just goes to show his potential. But the thing is, as well, as I said last podcast, like my expectation of Norwich this season is not focused around a league position. It's more focused about trying to get our Norwich back, trying to get that pathway strong again, trying to get the style of play correct as well. Look, I know it might sound quite a tin pot mindset, but I think with the absolute shower of beat we've seen in the last couple of years, I think it's definitely time to try and give youngsters opportunities. And I think Abu's had a case study. Look, he needed a run of games at Portsmouth to try and thrive, because there was quite a lean spell in front of goal for him at Portsmouth. So look, there's potential there, and we've got to be very patient with him. But but he's definitely a player who I think could help Norwich in the long-term future, as I said last podcast as well. So, look, I like his profile, and I think he's showing flashes of really good play, but you can't use him as Thorup did as like a hold-up man striker last game. It just didn't work, and he looked quite out of place. But as that's touched on, mate, I think both of us have got quite a strong opinion of this man in particular, and that is Christian Fasnacht. Freddie, what do we do with him?
We sell Christian Fasnacht, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yep. Next player. Right. Sorry for the avid Christian Fasnacht lovers of this channel. Yeah, as I said last podcast, really, I just can't. I know he has popped up with some quite important goals, and he's obviously got quite an intelligent football brain in terms of sifting out opportunities in front of goal, and he does come alive to some extent in the penalty box. But I just think his general play for Norwich isn't good enough, and especially when last season we wanted to try and counterattack at times during last season. It felt bizarre that Christian Fasnacht was the main orchestrator of that on the right wing. But there you go. I'm sure everyone had their reasons for that, but definitely a player who I think we need to try and sell and try and persist and give more opportunities. But then again, Freddie, Fasnacht might be needed if Rowe does leave. So who knows in that regard? I think it really depends on how much they trust Kamara. And I actually think right now, I think they're probably on the mindset of let's try and get another winger actually in the building, because I don't know how much they trust Abby right now. So anyway, one winger to another. Borja signs, Freddie. Wow. Definitely a player who excites me so much. The way he cuts inside with sheer pace, quality. I know at times he can be quite rogue and like to take like a long shot from distance, but he's one player that gets you excited, and that is why you want to watch football at the end of the day. I think he's got a great mindset off the ball as well. He wants to work for the team, albeit obviously we saw against West Brom away last season. He can't get a red card, which obviously needs to be cut out of this game. I know that for sure, but definitely a player who's so clever in little pockets of space as well. So a player that I want to try and keep and build around actually for the future, because I feel like obviously with Sargent, Sarah, and Rowe's future so uncertain, it feels like now it's the next couple of players to come through, and that next couple for me is Nunes and Borja Signs. Do you think Borja Signs can actually step up to Rowe's role if Rowe does decide to leave this season?
100%, definitely. With Borja, I mean this is a player who, when he's at his very best, reminds me of a certain Argentinian who used to play for us. I think that is a big call. There's no question. That's a big, strong opinion. But I think Borja is, as you say there, a player we need to integrate and be one of the first names and try and build around him in terms of in a forward line and try to get him service and have him cut in from the left and then spank one in the top corner, which we see him do quite a lot last season. He does love a nice curling shot from the edge of the box, but he's a sublime player.
He cost us nothing. Fantastic. He cost us nothing either, did he?
Exactly.
Free.
He cost nothing. Fantastic business from Mr. Webber just before he left. It's very rare we say fantastic business by that man, but no, really, a special player, a very special player who, albeit he started off the season injured, so he didn't come in until quite a while later, but he is superb, absolutely brilliant. He really has got a bright future in football, and I hope it's at this football club because he's brilliant. But as you say, his temper, he's hot-headed, he can be a bit rash, but as long as he doesn't get sent off, he can be rash all he wants. But he's fantastic. He's got to be the big name that is put in this side because he's fantastic.
Yeah, I just can't go over. Like, no one talks about it either. Like, he was free. It's crazy. Yes or no, I've heard that agent fees was quite a lot in terms of that, I think. But anyway, he was still free and he needs to get more recognition anyway. So well done, Stuart Webber. Yeah, I think now we're at the time for the academy-based players. Although on this list we didn't include Elliot Miles and Gabe Forsyth, I would just like to touch on them quickly. Firstly, I just want to say well done. The fact that they are still around the first team with almost like 9 minutes after pre-season is so impressive. I actually watched the video this morning of the diary room. It was with Liam Gibbs and Jonathan Rowe. and they were praising Gabe for shooting in the shooting drill. I was like, go on, Gabe, that's brilliant. So yeah, I'm ever so happy for Gabe. I think both of those players, how I see those two working this season is, I think they'll be huge players for the under 21 side, huge players. And I think with that as well, if they impress a lot or they just impress generally, I see how they're going to be used is they'll probably play 21s all season, and then I reckon they'll probably get some like first team match day squad appearances. So being on the bench regularly, because obviously now in a championship we've now got 9 subs as well. So I probably expect them to be kind of featured on the bench more frequently next season, which is great news. It's just I think what we need to do is with those two is especially which had happened last season, obviously, was when we were actually ahead of games and we were comfortable. I think it'd be beneficial to try and actually embed them in and bring them on when we're comfortable in games. So, for example, I think it was I think we played Rotherham at home. It was 5-0, and I know Bauer obviously came on the pitch, but I think it was so delayed. And I don't actually think during that game either. I think Finley Welch didn't actually even play that game as well, which was so bizarre because the game was won. So then again, I think you've got to stick to your main philosophies and principles as a Norwich manager, and that is to try and keep the pathway ticking along and showing its strength. And in the games that I already feel like they've won, look, I know the championship is so hard, and it's so hard to try and get a 3-goal lead or a 4-goal lead against any team in the championship. But if that opportunity comes, bring them on, because we need to start and show this pathway again. So definitely those two, they've got great potential, and both of them even have international recognition as well. I suspect that both of them probably play for Wales and Scotland this season as well. So that is great news for them, and they've come on so well, and it's great to see that they're actually enjoying the preseason as well. And even as well, shout out to Wale Oneke as well, who's actually also playing with the first team this preseason as well. So fair play to him. Obviously, Warner and Hills as well. But Kenneth Burr, Freddie, have you seen much of him this preseason? What's your thoughts about him? Loan move, surely, just to get them some minutes in under his belt?
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I've not seen much of him because he's mainly been playing for the under-21 side in pre-season, and he is scoring plenty of goals, which is of course fantastic to see. And of course, scored in our first pre-season game against Northampton. I'm very glad he got that new contract because he's a player who is evidently very highly rated. There was big talk about that contract, and we need, and for the sake of his development and also for the club to keep hold of evidently a very good player with an impressive goal record in the academy leagues, that needed to happen. I do think a loan would be highly beneficial for him to properly get first team football, whether that's in League One or League Two potentially. I don't know what the sort of ambition is there from the club and himself of where he would like to play, but I think that would be very good for him just to get first team minutes and learn the men's game, to use the cliche, and come up against big, hard defenders in a difficult sort of league where the football isn't really as free flowing, and that's where you can really sort of make a name for yourself, and it's the making of you as a player. But yeah, I would definitely loan out Ken Abbo, and I think for the other academy boy who you already sort of spoke about in Finley Welch, I think maybe a loan would be beneficial for him as well, albeit in pre-season he has looked impressive and he's done some good stuff down the right-hand side, and he's been integrated in quite a lot of the first team games, but now it seems that he's gone a bit further down into the academy teams. So maybe that is the thoughts of Thorup and his coaching staff, that the youth players who aren't maybe in and around the first team anymore are the ones who are going to end up going out on loan, and in that sort of refresh of the squad, which is really, once this pre-season game is done with, I feel that's where all of these moves are going to start to be made, and we'll see a few players leave out on loan, maybe leave permanently, maybe some incomings. We'll have to wait and see on that front. But as for Abbo and Welch, I'd loan them both out. I think it'd be very beneficial for their careers, and hopefully the loan spells go well for them. But of course, last season we saw quite a few academy lads have some good loan moves instantly, although then obviously not attackers. But Adegboyega and Hills instantly spring to my mind because they had fantastic spells in League Two. And yeah, I think these two, Welch and Abbo, would massively benefit from going to a lower league and hopefully doing well, and then come the 25-26 season they'll be put in the first team perhaps.
Yeah, with Finn, I definitely think he should go out on loan now. But I also wanted to say as well, I also think he's a player that can actually influence the team off the bench as well. I think he's that good for the first team. I know that's quite a bold statement, but just his profile of player is so exciting to watch. The way he can work in small spaces is exceptional. And I think when you're trying to chase a game, you need penetration, you need expansive players and players that want to play on the front foot. And that is Finley Welsh. Look, I know it's quite a difficult game, like the championship physically. I get that, absolutely, but he's definitely a player who I think could really, really impact us off the bench, probably more so than Hernandez actually, because I think with O'Neill, we gave O'Neill so much opportunities now to try and prove himself off the bench, but it just hasn't really clicked for O'Neill. But I think for Finn, he's definitely a player who I think could actually impact us off the bench. He's just that kind of player who can win us a lot of fouls and actually try and weave through quite tight zones, of opposition space. But look, you look at that as well, and you want to kind of get in a situation where you want to use like a young player off the bench. You want to try and give him as much minutes as possible. And I think with Finn, I think that is the best case for him to do so as well. I think he needs a loan move, but Finn is such a unique player in the fact that he plays with such an attacking mindset, and he's got so much like attacking ideas of how to try and weave through a defense. So what I don't want to happen is a coach to try and coach him into play that he isn't, if that makes sense. So I think that loan move has probably got to be spot on, and I think more spot on compared to the other players as well. I think you've got to try and find a manager that interlinks with Finn's ideas of football. So look, we'll see what happens there, but I definitely think that Finley Welsh is a player for the future for Norwich. I've said it for a while. He's so good, and he's got great potential. But I think right now a loan move would be perfect for him, just to try and get him feeling first team football. But yeah, he's a great talent. So if I was to conclude, Freddie, am I right? So Ashley Barnes. We've got Ashley Barnes for bench.
Yes.
You want Springett so you want Springett gone as well. So sell Springett?
Yes, yeah.
I'll say loan. Hernandez bench.
Yes.
Rose start.
Yes.
Superb. Sargent start.
Yes, of course.
Superb. Eder.
Well, the thing is, if I'm starting Sargent, I have to bench Eder. That's just logic.
Yeah.
I have to bench him.
So. I think so, yeah. But I think Adam will go if he's on the bench. But yeah, bench Eder right now in this little concept of ours. Kamara.
I'm benching Kamara.
Benching Kamara, okay. Yes. Obviously, if Rose says I would have to bench Kamara, but in an ideal world for Norwich in the future, I'd start Kamara. Finley Welsh loan.
Yep.
Kenneboa loan.
Yep.
And Borges signs is straight on that team sheet, yeah?
Yeah, of course he's straight in. No questions.
There we go.
Exactly. Well, there you have it. So there's our thoughts on all of Norwich City's attackers. What are yours? Let us know in the comments section below, or let us know on any of our social media platforms. We'll leave a link to them in the description. If you want to write an article maybe about Norwich attackers, we'll leave a link to the MyFootballWriter website in there as well, and then you can get in contact. And there's a guest article waiting there with your name on it. But anyway, there's our thoughts. As I say, do let us know yours here on the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like and you subscribe to the channel. We thank you again for your continued support of the channel so far. I've been Freddie Humphrey Wakefield. He has been Will Grant, and we will see you for the next video here on the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel. It's goodbye for now, and we'll see you in the next one.